Why is that?
Hang on.
Piers, let me educate your guest a little bit about his own country.
So please educate me. Please educate me.
I'm about to. Be quiet and I will. Now, first of all, nobody's calling for people to be deported because of their views. We have laws in this country against organizations that are prescribed as terrorists, and I have no problem with terrorists being removed from this country under the laws of this country. Secondly, Donald Trump never said that the people calling for the eradication of Jews were fine people. If you go and look at his quotes, he actually condemned them and said they should be condemned absolutely. But the people who were there protesting about the statues, they were the ones that were fine people.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
Treated unfairly, sir. I'm sorry, I just didn't understand what you were saying. You were saying the press has treated white nationalists unfairly? No, I just didn't understand what you were saying.
No. There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day, it looked like they had some rough, bad people. Neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest because, you know, I don't know if you know, they had a permit. The other group didn't have a permit. So I only tell you this, there are two sides to a story. I thought what took place was a horrible moment for our country, a horrible moment.
Now, you should educate yourself about those things. And thirdly, you should educate about the fact that, regrettably, I would quite like to have a First Amendment here in the UK. We do not have a First Amendment, and I would have a lot more sympathy with your argument if we hadn't spent the last 10 years watching people be sacked from their jobs for saying women are women and men are men. Now, about 15 months ago, my wife got pregnant. Not me, because we're old school. And for 9 months, we talked about what our boy would look like, what he might do when he grows up. We looked at baby scans and videos on YouTube about what the fetus looks like at 9 months and 12 months and 20 months. And eventually he was born. And he is this cute little bundle of joy. He's cuter than about 80% of puppies, right? Now, if you said to me that I had a choice, either my son had a serious risk of starving or dying from a preventable disease in the next year, or I could press a button and he would live. He would go to school. He would bring his first girlfriend home. He'd go to university and graduate and become a woke idiot. And then he'd get a job and get married and have children and become a man. But all I have to do is press this button. And for every day of my son's life, a giant plume of CO2 is going to get released into the atmosphere. Now, you're all very young, and most of you are not parents. Let me tell you something. There is not a parent in the world who would not smash that button so hard their hand bled. Okay to say that London has become less English?
Well, if they were Scottish, yeah.
Right, so what's the difference?
Constantine, but the receipts!
You're
from England. Why
I'm not from England. I wasn't born here. I didn't grow up here.
But you just said are you from London?
No.
But
let me say exactly what he said. Yeah. His second tweet, so he made this first one and then lots and lots and lots of people.
My point for me is we have lots of immigrants. So he's not racist, just a very naughty boy.
Konstantin Kisin, who joins us now from our London newsroom. Good morning to you. What do you make of this row about this joke?
Well, I can see why people are angry about it. I think one of the first things that needs to be said here is there's a tremendous double standard going on. As someone who's neither right nor left-wing, you can see that if this had been a right-wing comedian talking about a left-wing politician, say Diane Abbott, their career would be over by now. They would be ostracized. They would never be on television again. So I can see why people are angry. Having said that, the way you fix that double standard isn't by treating everybody equally badly. Jo Brand is a comedian. She was performing as part of a comedy talk show called Heresy, the point of which is that people take extreme positions for the purposes of humor, right? So you can expect that something controversial will be said. And if you start to live in a society where people get prosecuted or investigated for jokes, which is already happening, then you really know that that society is not really free anymore.
And I will just reflect, because Nigel Farage has commented, he's given an interview to the Sun newspaper and said, it's kind of reflecting what you said when you compared the joke that potentially could have been made about Diane Abbott. It's just because it was me. There are some, mostly on the left, who believe in the European project, to whom I'm the devil demon figure. So are politicians fair game? And if they are fair game, how far can you go as a comedian?
Well, this is the thing is, I don't think Jo Brand would argue that this is one of her best jokes. It's probably crossed the line. But the point for us as comedians is we don't always know what's crossed the line or what's funny or what's not funny until we've said it. And I'm a bit disappointed with Nigel Farage on this one because he's usually someone who stands up for free speech. I think this is an issue where people need to ignore the party political side of this and just say, look, if we have a society in which comedians start to get investigated by the police for jokes that they tell, we're not really living in a free society. But I think an interesting point here as well is in terms of the BBC itself. It seems to me that the BBC has been very heavily focused on the diversity agenda recently, which is a good thing. But one of the things that doesn't seem to be reflected in the diversity is diversity of opinion. There's clearly nobody in that production room at this show who actually said, look, this might annoy half the country. And I think that's telling.
Well, the Prime Minister...
Folks, hope you enjoyed the compilation of Konstantin Kisin's takedowns of various people, the BBC. I mean, I love watching his show, Triggernometry. I love the fact that not only is he a comedian, but a great satirist, a great writer. His delivery, when he's talking from the political side, is absolutely spot on. He's a wonderful addition to the United Kingdom, as you say, he's first generation, coming over there from Russia. And his speeches are absolutely fantastic. And in terms of, the conciseness, the preciseness, how he basically whittles down, down to the few points that he wants to talk about. And he mixes in humor inside there, sometimes self-deprecating, sometimes at the expense of other people, but there's a truthfulness to it. I don't think he really goes over the line, as he said, but, one man's over the line is another person, hey, I'm just starting out. Now, as far as the joke that was done in terms of, against the MP, listen, you know what? Heresy, that's a comedy set that you're doing, and you don't expect to hear anything that's heresy? Come on, folks. The problem is that there is no First Amendment in the United Kingdom. And the free speech laws in the United Kingdom, wow, those are starting to whittle down, folks. It's like, when you were young and you took a piece of wood and you were whittling down a big old piece of wood and you whittled it down to a tiny little piece of wood slowly over time. Well, that's what's happening over there. That's what's happening in the United Kingdom. Free speech laws are basically disintegrating right before our eyes across the pond. Hate speech laws are now in effect, where police are being called to investigate because somebody called somebody fat, or somebody stupid, or somebody an idiot, or somebody a moron, or somebody retarded. And then giving them a summons, asking them to come to court, or hauling them off to jail. Unbelievable, stupid shit is happening in the United Kingdom, all in the name of trying to police free speech and decide what hate speech is. Now, in the little bit that he was at the Oxford Union, in terms of climate change, I think everybody, every single person that's growing up and is about to get married and wants to have children needs to listen to that. And I'll leave it at that because I want you to go back and listen to it again. But folks, we appreciate you taking time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. Let us know what you think. Put your comments down below. Check out our other video links above and below. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And Konstantin is pretty right. And when you're left, you're like those other losers that were listening to him. They were all wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.